So yes, awesome, perfect, y'all. All right, cool. We're gonna go ahead and get into this. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and then we will go into our little presentation here. All right, now I'm sharing my screen, and let's just see if I can pay attention to y'all. So as I share my screen, just Lee, can you give me a thumbs up if you could see that sharing of my screen when I did that? Or anybody? Thumbs up if you could see that sharing of the screen of the presentation. Cool. All right, awesome. All right, so let's get started here. I'll be sharing the screen, right? Yeah, all right, cool. All right, so this is Natural Solutions Month. Really excited about this. It's a change of pace from all the food stuff that we cover. So every month we're going to have a theme. If you're in our little community network, all this stuff is going to be saved and in the network. And if you're a CrossFit Combine member, you'll get an email of the video. Everyone else, this is really exclusive information, and I think it's really useful. So today we're going to be talking about skin protection, sunscreens, lip balms, and mosquito repellents. And the reason that one of the big reasons that we're doing this is I was just recently in Idaho for about a week, and I was visiting Arnika's family and had a great time. But like the first day that I was in burnt Idaho, I got tore up by mosquitoes. And so I'm this health guy. I like refuse to use any repellent because it's toxic, you know, and that lasted for about half a day because I got so tore up, like I just couldn't bear it. And I realized at that point, there's some of these things that we're going to want to have some options for. And it may not be ideal, but we definitely want to have something available to us in the situations that we need these things. So optimal would obviously not be putting anything on your skin, but the reality is that some of us are going to need some stuff sometimes. And so when we do that, we want to have the best options available. All right. Now in our nutritional vitality talk, we had talked about toxins and toxicants, and the reason that we call them toxins and toxicants is because they damage cells and tissues and organs, and they inhibit nutrient assimilation. But the biggest thing we're talking about here today is the damage component of it. So that's why we want to be aware of the different things that we put on our skin. So let's first talk, the first part of this is going to be sunscreens. This is the biggest piece of it. I think this is going to maybe take us about 30 minutes total, but we'll see. I think our goal needs to be to understand we are not trying to avoid sun exposure. We're just trying to be smart and minimize the damage and the excess exposure because we need sun exposure. So just bear with me because I want to go through a plug for actually getting some direct sunlight. Conventional wisdom tells us to avoid the sun at all costs. And there's a whole spectrum there. You know, there's some people that just think the less sun you can get, the better, which is crazy, but it's something that's been drilled in our brains for a very long time. And then there's people that are just very wary of it, although they know that they've heard that there's benefits associated with sun exposure from, you know, production of vitamin D and mood enhancement and stuff like that. So the sun is really good for us. You know, from an ancestral perspective, like it was so beneficial and important. Most of our ancestors prayed to it. The farmers depend on it. The seasons change from it. The sun gives life to the earth. All right. So, and we co-evolved with the earth ever since the earth's existence. We've co-evolved with the sun ever since our existence. And we've co-evolved with this ability to not just tolerate it, but also to derive some benefit from it. And so of all organisms on the planet. But like many things and just about everything, it's really all about ebb and flow. You know, most of the things that are good for us are good for us in punctuated amounts and moderated amounts. And that includes food, that includes fasting, that includes exercise. The benefit comes from this ebb and flow. One of the best resources on the benefits of sun exposure, I'm not sure if any of you have seen this, but Dr. Ruscio, he's the guy that wrote the New York Times bestseller. I think it's Healthy Gut, Healthy You. Really, really good book, a really great guy in the holistic world right now. And he has a really, really comprehensive post and video and blog podcast on the benefits of sun exposure, where he compiled all the research and the data. And this is like the most relevant information possible. And it completely contradicts everything that we've been told for most of our lives. So we get a lot of benefit from sun exposure, the full spectrum, UVB, UVA, We see an improvement in all different chronic degenerative diseases. We see an improvement in our vitamin D levels. And something really important to emphasize is I think most of us are probably taking a D3 supplement, but that cannot and will not replace the benefits that we get from and the necessary need that we get from being in direct sun exposure. The recommendation is usually to get about 15 minutes of direct sun exposure at least 2 or 3 days per week during the peak hours of the day. And this is going to give you all the benefits that we're looking for. The best time to get the sun is when the sun is the strongest. There are some benefits to getting early morning sun because it kind of primes the body to protect itself later in the day, which completely makes sense. But the best time to get sun is during the peak hours of the day, which is usually between 10 and 2, depending on the time of year and your geographical location. So at that time, we're getting the broad spectrum of UVB to UVA. The damaging spectrum is going to be from UVA, especially if it's in isolation from UVB, but when they're together, we see the most benefit. All right, and again, 10 to 15 minutes in those peak hours is what's going to be best. I apologize. Some of these slides are going to be kind of text intense, but I'm going to clean that up and modify it as I go through this a few times. This is the first time going through this. But the best thing that we can do to protect ourselves is, first of all, eat real food. Because when we eat real food, we're giving the body all our different precursors that we need to protect the body properly. The fatty acids that we consume from animal meats and traditional fats give us the proper raw materials to build the body properly. And when we have good cell membrane structure, it's very protective against this kind of damage. EPA and DHA, which are part of the omega-3 family, are the things that give us the ability to anti-inflame and heal properly. And most of us are probably getting that from if we eat wild-caught salmon. And a lot of us, because of our supplementation talks, are probably taking like a cod liver oil or virgin cod liver oil. So EPA and DHA are going to help us heal from that damage. And again, I say damage lightly because it's like a hormetic damage, right? Just like exercise is damaging, but the adaptation to it, or the recovery to it, is what's beneficial. It's the same thing with sun exposure. Cholesterol, super protective because cholesterol is built into every one of our cell membranes, and cholesterol is one of the body's healing agents. And cholesterol is needed to form vitamin D3 at the level of the skin, and then it also contributes to all those synergistic health effects that we get. And then we get some benefits from some things that we might otherwise get from plant matter, which would be vitamin C and some of the carotenoids and polyphenols, which we see to have a very protective effect against the damage that occurs from UV exposure. And super important is to avoid consuming toxic oils like the highly refined oils, because if we do, we are building our body with the wrong oils. We're not getting that protective benefit. And I see this as being even more damaging than not consuming the right foods. Just another plug for real food. So we want to eat real food. Of course, we love our definition of real food. And we just think that it gives us all kinds of benefits. And specifically here today, we're talking about the benefits from damage from sun exposure. All right, so in simplistic terms, you guys have all heard this before. Our goal when it comes to eat real food is just to eat real food, be strategic with our carbs, and nurture space in between meals and experiment with fasting. And if we do that over a lifetime, we're going to be freaking amazing. Now, this is a real world life example. The benefits of eating real food, and especially eating a lot of these animal meats and traditional fats. The way that it builds your body. So I went to the CrossFit Games back in 2013. I went with Colby, and at the time, the other business partner owner that he had here, Colin. And man, I spent so much time out in the sun. I don't know if any of y'all have been to the CrossFit Games back when it was at that location in California. This little stadium right here, there is no shade. And we're out there watching all these athletes do all their different workouts, and there's no protection. And I came back from the games, and I remember walking into Whole Foods, and the butcher there knows me really well. And he was like, dude, you are as red as a tomato right now. My whole body was red. I never peeled. I never felt like my skin burned. In fact, after like 1 or 2 days, like I turned to a really nice golden brown. And that was one of my big first realizations. This is right after Nicole, after I graduated from, or not right after, but maybe a year after getting out of NTP school. And this is when I was like, man, there is really something to real food and how it protects the body. So same thing, we went to the CrossFit Games this past year, never used any sunscreen. Was definitely very smart about covering up, and we used this towel, and I had a hat and stuff like that, but I did take the time to stay out in the sun. But we were out in the sun for a really, really long time most days. So it works. And the longer that you eat real food, the more protective it's going to be for your body in all realms, but specifically today we're talking about sun protection. So the sun protection steps that I recommend is make sure that you're eating real food, especially animal meats and traditional fats, because those give your body everything that it needs to protect itself and heal itself. And then I would recommend building up a tolerance so that you get the health benefits of sun exposure. And so what we recommend is getting outside during those peak hours for maybe starting out 10 minutes. What I'm doing right now is midday. I'll greet the nooner here at CrossFit. And then as soon as I'm done with that, I'll go outside and I'll just stand facing the sun for 5 minutes. I hit a timer on my phone. I do 5 minutes facing the sun, and then I do 5 minutes away from the sun with my shirt off. And even when it's super hot, like right now, it's like 105 degrees midday. And then I know that I'm getting the benefits that I need from the direct sun exposure. And then the rest of my day and on the weekends, I feel pretty comfortable and relaxed to go to the pool and get outside as much as I want. But I'm also very smart about it. So you can tell when your skin starts to heat up and you're going to have a problem. That's when you want to cover up. So covering up using, getting in the shade, using a hat, using some long sleeve shirts or a towel or some pants or something like that. There's actually shirts and pants designed for sun protection that breathe really well and they don't make you really, really hot. I have a long sleeve breathable shirt that I keep in my backpack for hikes. And even when I put it on out in this 100, 105, 110 degree weather, it feels really cool. All right. So I'll share some links to some really cool clothing that you can get that looks really nice or athletic. And then as a last resort, I would definitely recommend having some sunscreen available. I've never used it. I just have never used it. I've never burned. A lot of people say, well, yeah, you're tan, but I wasn't always tan like this. Like I'm tan because I purposely get out for 10 minutes most days and I meditate in the sun and stuff like that. But having an approved sunscreen available for those situations where you're at a potluck, you're at a park, you're at a pool or something like that and getting outside so that you do have some protection when you need it. And we're going to talk about some specifics as far as that goes. All right. Now, if you have comments, questions, just make sure that you're putting them in that little, you can make comments in the little feed there. And then you can also put questions in the question box, please. All right, cool. Thank you so much for that, Nicole. I appreciate it. I put a lot of work into this selfishly for myself. And Arnica needs sunscreen because she gets red. Her nose turns red and stuff. All right. So let's talk about sunscreens. With sunscreens, we want safety from ingredients, and then we also want it to work. All right. So I think sometimes, again, this is where we have to make this work in a modern lifestyle, because some of us in this holistic health realm are almost like, I don't know if this is the right word or not, like zealots, right? We're so focused on health that we're like, I'm not going to put anything on my skin that's toxic. But you have to give and take just a little bit, because if we want to avoid the burning, we have to have something that works. And that's the same with the mosquito repellents we're going to talk about in a little bit. What's ideal is not putting any repellents on your skin, because they're by definition going to be a little bit toxic. But at the same time, if we want to not suffer, then we want to have these options. Okay, so we want something that's relatively safe, and then we want something that has some really good efficacy or works really well. So again, I apologize for the text intensive slides here. I'll try to clean those up as I refine this. But ingredients on sunscreen should not be irritating or cause skin allergies. That's a big red flag if it causes some kind of skin irritation for you. And they should be able to withstand UV rays and not degrade or turn into something that's going to be harmful or toxic to us. And then we usually recommend, first of all, you're going to inhale anything that you put on anyway. So those ingredients should not be toxic to inhale, because once something gets in your lungs, it causes some kind of damage that's different from the damage at the level of the skin. And in FDA testing, we see non-mineral sunscreen chemicals to be absorbed into the skin to the degree that you can measure it in the blood, in the skin, in the tissues, and sometimes I think it says here in breast milk and in urine samples. So we just have to understand that although the skin is meant to be this non-resistant protective barrier, we do absorb this stuff and it does get inside our bodies. And depending on how often we're doing that, we got to be really careful with what we put on our skin. All right, so ingredients to absolutely avoid: oxybenzone, vitamin A. So a lot of people would probably ask, well, I thought vitamin A was healthy. Well, it is healthy to ingest it with food, but it's not healthy to put on the skin, because the reaction that it has in the presence of ultraviolet light is going to be contributes to some lesions and tumor formation. So, and this is pretty prevalent in the literature from EWG and from the EPA. They all recommend not putting vitamin A on your skin. I'm not sure if that was something that used to happen a lot with sunscreens or not. And then also, you don't want to have added insect repellent because, again, of the synergy of the toxins associated with this insect repellent. And the reason I throw this in there is that a lot of sunscreens will combine with insect repellents and vice versa for convenience, but it actually tends to be extremely damaging. So these are things that we want to avoid. And then the types of products that we want to avoid are going to be sprays. I know that the sprays thing is super convenient, but because it has that potential or more of a potential to get into your lungs, it's definitely something that we want to avoid. And then powders for the same reason. What we're looking for are those lotions, okay? So, and then we also want to avoid any SPF above 50. The reason is usually to get to that above 50 SPF, there's not a good amount of balance of protection from UVB and UVA. And the most damaging of those two is going to be UVA. And the most of these protected SPFs are going to be protective against UVB, although some of them are going to say balanced protection. They lean more towards UVB. And when we get that imbalance of UVA to UVB, that's what's really, really damaging and causes melanomas. You get a false sense of protection with those higher SPFs. So what I notice is when people lather up on these really, really strong SPFs, then they tend to spend more time in the sun. So what you're doing is you're putting more of these chemicals on your body. You're putting more stuff on your body that your body's absorbing. You have this false sense of protection, and potentially you're getting more stuff inside your body, all right? So that's why we recommend not having those super high SPFs. The ingredients to look for, ideally you're going to use the mineral-based sunscreens, and that's the titanium dioxide and the zinc oxide. Acceptable is going to be the avobenzone. I don't know if that's how you say it, but whatever. What's up here? Mexeril SX. Okay, so when you look at the EPA's information on this stuff, well, first of all, the mineral ones do not break down. Remember, one of the goals that we have with sunscreens is that it doesn't degrade. The mineral-based ones do not break down, and they have minimal concerns, if any, from a toxicity standpoint. This is pulled up from the EWG.org. You'll see titanium dioxide and zinc oxide have a really, really good rating unless they're sprays. And then these other two, a secondary rating, but still really, really good. But if you've got access to some mineral stuff, then why not use it? So the products that we want to look for from a sunscreen perspective are going to be creams. We want broad spectrum protection. We want something that's water resistant, and then a SPF between 15 and 50. I think in the 30s is going to be perfect. I don't care what your skin type is, how fair your skin is, because again, your goal is not to always first go for your sunscreen. Your goal is to build up your tolerance because it's healthy and it makes you look really good. And then you want to have this protection available just in case you need it. Okay, so I think that 30, 35 SPF is going to be perfect for everyone. Now, this is, I'm just going to exit out of here and just make sure we don't have anything going on, any emergencies. Somebody tell me if you can't hear me or something like that. All right, cool. All right, anybody else want to say good job? Then you can say good job. All right, we got some people in here. All right, let's go back. Now, the strategy that we use to put together our recommendations here is we researched the list of best sunscreens according to EWG.org. And remember, EWG is also where we get our Dirty Dozen Clean 15 pesticides and produce recommendations. So really, really great resource. I feel like EWG, as far as I can tell, is very unbiased. We cross-reference that with EPA recommendations. So the EPA has a sunscreen tool, a mosquito repellent or bug repellent tool. So if you cross-reference those two things, you start to see some really good consistencies. And then I always kind of double check with the guys that I follow the most, like Mercola and Simpson and Kresser, and just see if they've done any recent posts, maybe the Paleo Mom, Sarah Ballantyne, see if they've done any recent posts on any of these topics, and then try to pull the consistencies from all that stuff. And then what I do is I go and I search Amazon for some top products, and then I want to find something that has decent ratings, right? So if it fits within the guidelines and some other people are making some similar recommendations, we tie all that together, go to Amazon or some other place that sells products, and then see what kind of good ratings we have, and those are the products that we recommend, right? Now, you can do this on your own if you want to, but if you're like me, the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to do it again in the future, and I want to make this convenient for other people, and we'll probably readdress this every year because new information and new products come out all the time. All right, so this is going to be our top picks for sunscreens. Badger is a really good company, and we recommend using this sport one because it is waterproof. All right, it'll stay on your skin for a relatively long time, and it's mineral based. It uses zinc oxide, and it's like awesome. It goes on relatively clear and smooth, not like traditional old zinc sunscreens that were like white and you could see everybody that was wearing it. So a really, really good product, and they've received some awards. And so I think that'd be worth something experimenting with. In fact, I ordered this for us, and we're going to have it available, and Arnica's going to try it out. Another really great company that has a lot of good products, but this one specifically is the Wax Head line. And again, here, both of these we're seeing are SPF 35s. And again, all the ingredients check out. They're awesome, following all the guidelines that we mentioned before. And then this is another really good one. I probably pulled out like 20 different freaking products before I settled on the ones that I felt like were going to be the ones I wanted to recommend. Rocket Pure, this is a really good one. They actually tout themselves as EWG top rated. And then we have what I've heard a lot of great things from females about. Oh, another great place to get information from is the women out there that are like trying to live a healthy lifestyle and trying to get the best kind of makeups that are non-toxic and stuff like that. Beauty Counter, highly recommended by a lot of these holistic hot shots like Balance Bites, Diane Sanfilippo and them. So their sun protection is really awesome. And I've heard really good things about it. It was just a little bit more expensive and more money than I wanted to spend. So if you're a female, maybe try this one from Beauty Counter, and then everyone else, we've got those three, and I'll send out links to all this stuff, okay? Since we're talking about sunscreens, there's nothing additional that I need to cover about lip balm. I don't think lip balm is necessary if you have really good fatty acid sufficiency. But what we see is a lot of people have cracked lips and dry lips. And if you need something and you also want to protect your lips, I do get a little concerned being out in the sun a lot because, I have cold sores. I used to have cold sores all the time. And if I'm out in the sun for a really long time and I get burned, which it's been a while, but my lips would blister up before my skin would. So might be useful to have some lip balm available. So Burt's Bees, one of those things I didn't think was going to be one of the best ones, and it actually is. Checks out really well in EWG, and so does Dr. Bronner's, but only the naked one, not the ones with other essential oils and other ingredients in it. So really, really good ratings from EWG. And then Badger's lip balm is also really good, and specifically this one vanilla bean one, okay? Now, I'm going to transition into bug repellents. Let me see if we have any questions or comments or snide remarks from the peanut gallery over here. Chandler, good. Chandler's in here. Happy to see that. We got a question. Let's see. Any suggestions about different exposure for children? Ooh, that is a really good question. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. My intuitive kind of sense on it would be it's the same thing for adults. I mean, what's healthy for us is going to be healthy for them. I remember when I was a kid, I was out in the sun all the time. I don't remember ever putting sunscreen on. So I don't think that there's anything that you would want to avoid the sun more than adults or anything like that. You would want to follow the same guidelines, which is have them build up a tolerance, maybe give them 5 or 10 minutes to play out in the water or the pool, or 10 to 15 minutes or something like that, and let them build up a tan. And if you're going to be out there all day, because kids like to play in the water and all that stuff, you definitely want to have a good sunscreen. So I hope that answers your question. Or am I answering your question? Did I answer your question? I am answering your question. Invite user on screen. So I clicked on I'm answering questions. So to answer your question, my intuitive answer is, and I will look into it, is that children need to follow the same guidelines. They need to build up a tolerance. It's going to be healthy for them. And then since children a lot of times like to play out in the sun and play in the pool more than adults, and they just can't stop themselves, and we don't want to really, I'd say, following the same guidelines about trying to get them to spend more time in the shade and putting on a long sleeve t-shirt and stuff like that. But if that's a problem or they refuse to do it, or if there's a social situation going on there, definitely having an approved sunscreen like one of the ones that we mentioned here. All right. Cool. Done answering. I don't know what that means. All right. We will move on to mosquito repellents. All right. So we're at about 30 minutes. This is going to go maybe about 15 minutes over. But it's good stuff. Now, again, bug repellents, selfish. I was in Idaho and just tore up, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. Things to avoid when it comes to bug repellent type stuff. Zappers, very ineffective, probably attract more bugs than you're trying to get rid of. And they're indiscriminate. Like, if you care about the life on this planet, I do. I hate killing bugs, except for mosquitoes. And so not a good idea, right? Yard treatments, I mean, obviously, intuitively, we all understand spraying the yard with stuff is probably not a good thing for the environment or yourself. Clip-on repellents and fans, same thing. You got these inhalation problems. One of Arnica's brothers actually had this thing. It was called Thermacell. And you plug in this little fan, it's a little electric device. You put in this little sleeve, and it protects you like for a certain amount of feet. And when I looked at this thing, I was so excited. I was like, this is one of the best inventions I ever saw, because you just turn it on and like you are mosquito free. But unfortunately, the way it works is that fan is heating up this little screen here, and then the stuff that's being emitted is probably not the best thing in the world to be breathing in. So same thing with candles, and I don't know if anyone's ever tried the citronella candles. Every time I've ever used them, nothing ever happened. I still got bit. So they're ineffective, and you're breathing in whatever's in the candle. Unfortunately, essential oils, and I used to be this big advocate for essential oils. I'm not saying that I'm not for certain things, but they just don't tend to provide the protection that we're looking for. doTERRA has the, what is it called? TerraShield. And I would take that out and use it religiously, and I still go a bit like mad. And then some people have reactions to some of the concentrations in essential oils. And then same with wristbands, probably not effective. Small radius protection, maybe you're inhaling what's in it. Some things that you can do to try naturally: make sure that you drain any standing water around the place that you habituate. Stay inside and check for seals in your doors and windows, which sounds almost common sense, but it's a really useful thing to do. We have a sliding screen door, and if that stays open a little bit, flies and stuff get in. So just making sure that you check the seals in your windows, you use your screen doors to keep stuff out of the house. You can also use fans inside or outside to keep bugs off of you. And then covering up is really useful, although sometimes mosquitoes can bite through depending on how thick the clothing is. When it comes to repellents, we don't recommend, because one of the recommendations we're going to have here is lemon of eucalyptus, or the concentrated version of that, which is PMD, on children younger than 3 years old, because it's so concentrated. Don't use more than 30% DEET on everyone. And I know the DEET term, we're going to talk about it here in just a second. Don't use repellents on any children under 6 months old. Don't use the fogger stuff. Don't use aerosol sprays for the reasons that we talked about before. And don't use the repellents mixed with sunscreen. All right, we already mentioned that. So let's go through the different chemicals that we can use. The Picardian, really high rated by EWG. It's relatively recent, so they don't have a ton of data on it, but the data they do have, super effective. 5 to 10% concentration, you're seeing protection for a couple of hours. If you go to 20%, it should protect you all day, which really excites me. All right. Has low inhalation toxicity, not known to irritate the skin, doesn't have an odor like DEET, evaporates from the skin more slowly, stays on for a little bit more, and works as effectively as DEET, and doesn't have the same toxicity as DEET. And so they really, really highly recommend the Picardian stuff. All right. Now, again, all things being equal, what would be optimal would be not putting anything on our skin, but out of the things that we need that are going to be effective and relatively safe, Picardian's a really good option. Now, DEET is actually an effective and acceptable option. When I first saw that, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then you read into it, and you read into the references and resources that EWG and EPA provides. It's very effective if you use it properly. That means at this lower concentration, and you're not getting it in your eyes and into your internals somehow through a spray or something like that. If you use it on your skin, very effective, relatively safe. I don't have any problem after doing all the reading that I did using DEET if I needed to. And the only reason that I would is if I didn't have my own Picardian repellent, and if I was somewhere and someone just had some DEET, something. All right. At knowing what I know now, because I didn't have anything available in Idaho, we had something with some DEET, and it was a spray. So I was not going to go without insect repellent. So I probably would have just held my breath, sprayed the spray in my hands, walked away from that because there's probably aerosol there, and then rubbed that on my skin with my hands, so that I try to minimize what I got into my lungs. Right. So DEET is actually, believe it or not, acceptable, and I'll share all the different links and resources. Now, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more kind of holistic and botanical, oil of lemon eucalyptus, which doTERRA has one, I have it in here right now. It actually smells pretty good. It's like lemon combined with eucalyptus. And then the concentrated version of that, which is PMD, seems to be relatively effective, but I doubt anywhere near as effective as Picardian or DEET. All right. So if you're looking to be a hard charger in this holistic realm and do something kind of botanical or plant-based, I would say that would be a really good option. And, you know, in Vegas, we don't have many mosquitoes, so I'm only looking at using that Picardian option when I go somewhere that there's going to be intense mosquito activity, like when I go visit my sister in Houston or if I go back to Idaho. If I'm here in Las Vegas, I'm probably going to have one of these oil of lemon, eucalyptus, or PMD options available. All right. So if I had to rank out of those different ingredients, I would say Picardian for safety and effectiveness, and then oil of lemon, eucalyptus, PMD. Right. So we're going to go through some product recommendations. And again, if we're doing Picardian, we're looking for the 5 or 10% for the 2 hours, 20% for the all day. This is the concentration we're looking for on the label. This is one that I just ordered, and I'm keeping this with my camping gear, and I will bring this with me anytime I go somewhere where there's potential for any kind of insects. Right, Natural Now, it looks like a spray, but it's not really a spray. It's you know, it's not like an aerosol. It kind of just like shoots stuff in liquid form on your skin. All right, and have heard some really good things about this from some friends that camp a lot. All right, so really, really good option. And then this Sawyer Products was recommended by the EWG and had some really good reviews on Amazon. And then also this Avon, remember the Skin So Soft stuff? So Avon, not all of them check out. It has to be this specific one, which is, what did they call it? Skin So Soft. There was a name associated with it, but this is it right here, and I'll send out a link to it. Yeah, this is a really good one. Okay, so those would be the Picardian options. Oh, the All Family Care one. I remember using some version of this when I was younger, but it has to be this clean feel version, because any of the other versions like have a really, really horrible rating as far as the toxicity level with EWG. So this would be a really good option. So a lot of different options to try there. And again, the one that I'm going for is the Natural because I just can't stand mosquitoes and stuff. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to make sure it's really, really effective. All right. Now, oil of lemon, we're skipping DEET because I think Picardian is a better option than DEET. The only time that I'm going to use DEET is if I don't have anything else available. And again, I don't have any problem using it because of what I've read on it. But my first choice is going to be Picardian. Second choice, or if you want to be a holistic hot shot, then would be the oil of lemon, eucalyptus, or the PMD. All right, so really high rated. Also, EWG recommends it. It's going to be this Coleman Botanicals one. All right, really good option. And then the Cutter Lemon Eucalyptus Insect Repellent pump spray. Right, so again, this is not an aerosol; it's a pump liquid spray. And then the Off Botanical Lotion. I think if I was going to try any of those, I would probably try that one. All right. Again, really good ratings. I'm not sure. I can't remember if EWG actually recommended this one or not, but the ingredients I'll check out. It's pretty awesome. And then this Repel one had really good reviews. You can see here like almost 8,000 reviews, relatively inexpensive, and seems to work really well. All right. So that's it. That is everything that we wanted to cover today. Your homework would be, if you wanted to take something useful away from this talk, you know, a lot of us will attend this stuff, including myself, and we'll learn some really good info, and we kind of get a little bit of some excitement and some, you know, you want to do something about it, and then you go off about your daily life and you forget all about it. I would say, let's just make a point to implement some of the stuff that we learned today. So what I'd recommend as your homework is to start to work on your tan. Like I said, I like to get outside around noon, 5 minutes each side. That's 10 minutes total. And then I'm pretty liberal with me going out to the pool and spending time at the park with my shirt off and stuff like that, right? And just understand that sun exposure is good for you. A tan is really good for you. There's a reason it looks good to all of us. And if you're fair-skinned and all that stuff, I don't think that matters at all. Actually, the fairer your skin, the more benefit you get from sun exposure. The darker your skin, the more you have to get sun exposure to get more benefit from it. Invest in some intention-based clothing for sun protection. I think the best thing to do is not to always turn to sunscreen. The best thing to do is have a hat, have a towel, have long sleeve shirt and or pants, and just have that. I usually don't need it for my legs because of the angle of the sun hitting me, but I do sometimes on my top. I'll notice myself get red and I'll throw on my little sun protective shirt. So I'll send out some recommendations, but I think that's where we all need to start is developing a tan and getting some sun exposure most days, and then having some clothing available, including a hat. And then if you need to, or just in case, get some sunscreen based on the recommendations we made today, and then invest in an insect or bug repellent if applicable. If you venture into some areas have a lot of bugs and stuff. And then just send me some feedback on this. Tell me what you think. I know that the little Picardian DEET thing might be a little bit controversial, but again, we're trying to make this work in a modern lifestyle, and we want something that's effective. All right. And I think that, and then our community site, I know a lot of people that are in this are in our community site. This recording is going to be in the community site along with all the different resources. If you have questions and comments outside of this talk today, please get into that course and have those questions and comments associated with the course so that it can be there for future reference, because I'm telling you what, this community, it's going to get big. We're going to have thousands of people in here eventually, all right? And that's going to be a really good resource for a lot of people. All right, so I'm going to go over here and I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to see if we got any questions, comments, or snide remarks. What do we got here? Here's a recipe I've heard but never made. Any thoughts on ingredients? Hold bird trapper recipe. 3 parts pine tar, castor oil. Yeah, Lee, I have no idea, man. What I want to do, honestly, if I can remember to try to make something like this. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Nicole. If I can remember to make this, so when I go back to Idaho, I'm telling you, man, I got so tore up. When I go back to Idaho, I'm gonna do a little video experiment of PMD eucalyptus thing on one arm, and then the Picardian on another arm, and then maybe I can try this out. So anytime you go to a bug infested place, try it out. Let me know. I have not heard about anything regarding that. So that's a good question. All right, what else? We got anything else, y'all? I feel like we made it out of here in a relatively good time. Cool. All right. Well, I don't see any need to stick around unless y'all have any other questions. Let me just make one other plug. Let me check on something real quick here. Lee, can you share that recipe in the chat, pretty please? And let me pull something up on my presentation here. All right. So next Friday, we've got, this is going to be super useful. Home cleaners, dish detergent, and all-purpose cleaners. I'll probably throw in there clothes washing detergent. I don't know how massive this is going to be, but this is going to be super, super, super useful. All right. So we want things that are effective, but then also relatively safe. And so that's what we're going to be covering that next talk. All right. Home cleaners next Friday, same time, same place. All right. Anybody else got anything, comments, questions? All right, y'all. Hey, thank you so much for showing up. I don't think there's a better way to invest your time than learning about things that are helpful for you or better for you. And again, I really appreciate and welcome feedback. So if you want to send me something outside of this talk or presentation, like, I just want to make this good and useful for people. Okay. All right. Love y'all. See y'all. Peace.